There is a curious thing about preparation. It often looks like nothing is happening, or worse, it looks like loss, delay, disappointment. But consider this. A seed, when buried in the ground, is not dead. It is hidden, quiet, waiting. And beneath the surface, it is being transformed. We are impatient creatures. We want clarity. We want visible progress. We want results. But God is not hurried. He is not rushed. He is not interested in simply getting you somewhere. He is far more interested in who you are becoming on the way there. There is something deeply unsettling about waiting, especially when the waiting is silent, when there are no signs, no confirmations, no visible markers of progress. We are taught, almost instinctively, to measure life by movement, by what can be seen, achieved, crossed off a list. So when we enter seasons that feel still, or even like we're moving backward, we start to wonder if we've done something wrong, if God has forgotten us, if we're stuck. But what if waiting isn't the absence of movement, but a different kind of motion altogether? What if the silence isn't a void, but a hidden workshop where the most vital things are being built far away from the public eye? Think of the seed buried in the earth. It vanishes from view. It is covered. It disappears. From the outside, it seems as though nothing is happening. In fact, if you didn't know better, you might think it had died. But deep in the dark soil, a miracle is beginning. The outer shell is breaking open. Roots are stretching downward, anchoring it before it dares reach upward. That fragile seed is becoming something entirely new, not just changed, but transformed. Preparation is often like that, quiet, hidden, misunderstood, and yet sacred. We long for clarity. We ask for signs. We want to see results. But growth doesn't always come with announcements. In fact, the most meaningful growth almost never does. The roots of strength, of wisdom, of faith are grown in the unseen hours, through the choices made in silence, through the lessons learned when no one else is watching. And that is hard, because we are creatures of sight. So we want to see the progress. We want proof that we are getting somewhere. But God in His mercy sometimes hides the progress so that we will learn to trust the process. Because if we saw everything too soon, we might become proud, or worse, distracted. We might fall in love with the destination and forget the one who walks with us on the road. It is in the quiet places that we learn to listen, in the delays that we learn patience, in the absence of clarity that we learn to follow, not with our eyes, but with our hearts. Sometimes the preparation feels like nothing because we have been trained to only value what is public, loud, or measurable. But the kingdom of God works on a different scale. Jesus said the kingdom is like yeast, working through the dough. Like a mustard seed, the smallest of all, yet growing into something mighty. These are slow things, quiet things, but unstoppable. And here's the strange comfort. If you are in a season that feels slow, hidden, or silent, it may not be that you are behind. It may be that you are right on time. Being prepared, not for something small, but for something lasting. And lasting things take time. A shallow plant sprouts fast, but it withers quickly because it has no root. But the tree that stands through storms and seasons is the one that spent years silently growing strong beneath the surface. So don't despise the quiet. Don't fear the stillness. Don't mistake delay for denial. Sometimes the very absence of visible progress is the evidence that God is doing His deepest work. The silence may not be God's absence. It may be His concentration. You are not forgotten. You are not left behind. You are not overlooked. You are being prepared gently, thoroughly, lovingly. And the same God who planted you in this place, in this season, will bring forth the fruit in due time. Trust the slow work of God. Trust that the roots you are growing now will one day hold up something beautiful, strong, and full of life. There is a difference between what we want and what we need. Then wisdom, we want speed. God gives us process. We want to get there quickly. God wants us to be ready when we arrive. And so while we rush to build plans, resumes, and reputations, God quietly goes to work on something much deeper, our character. The world rewards speed. Fast learners, fast climbers, fast talkers. In nearly every corner of culture, the question is, how quickly can you get there? We applaud the young success story, the overnight rise, the instant breakthrough. But heaven operates on a different timeline. God is not interested in how fast you move if the foundation underneath you is too fragile to hold what He wants to give you. Imagine a house with a beautiful facade but no proper structure beneath. It might impress at first glance, but the first storm will reveal the truth. That's how God views our lives. He will not rush the process if it means we're unprepared for what comes next. He is too wise to promote us into a place our soul is not yet strong enough to carry. And so, instead of speed, God builds slowly, brick by brick, layer by layer by layer. He allows time to teach us things speed never could. He puts us in situations that refine us, not to punish, but to prepare. Delays become classrooms. Setbacks become mirrors. Silence becomes space for reflection. In all of this, he is asking not, are you impressive? But are you faithful? Faithfulness is slower. It is quieter. It shows up without applause. It is more concerned with doing what's right than what's noticed. And it is faithfulness that shapes a person who can carry the weight of true purpose. We may feel at times that others are racing ahead while we are stuck. We may even wonder if we missed something, or worse, if God missed us. But comparison is a cruel teacher. It only tells us what we lack, never what we're learning. The truth is, each life has its own timetable. And what God is doing in you may require more time because it is meant to last longer, stand stronger, or carry more than you imagined. If God has you in a slower lane, it is not because you are less valuable. It may be because He is building something unshakable, something that doesn't crumble under pressure, something that won't fold when the lights are gone and no one is watching. Character is forged in quiet spaces, in the decisions no one sees, in the thoughts we take captive, in the words we choose not to say, in the integrity that holds even when compromise would be easier. These are the slow, steady steps that shape a soul. And while the world says, show your greatness, God says, let me grow it in you. One path looks faster. The other goes deep. When we only chase what's visible, achievements, recognition, praise, we risk becoming hollow. But when we allow God to work within us, even when it's slow, we are being rooted. And rooted people can survive droughts. Rooted people can weather storms. Rooted people don't just rise, they last. There will be moments when this is hard to believe, when the quiet feels heavy and the waiting feels wasted. But there is no wasted time in the hands of God. Every moment is a thread in the story. He is writing in you. And even when you can't see the full picture, you can trust the heart of the one who is painting it. So let the world chase speed. You focus on faithfulness. Let God build your life in a way that lasts, not just in what you do, but in who you are becoming. Because when the time comes and the door opens, it will not be your resume that sustains you. It will be your character, your humility, your faith. And those things take time, but they are always worth the wait. It's easy to trust when everything is going well. When the path is smooth, when the doors open with ease, when prayers are answered quickly and clearly, we feel secure. But life, in its deepest and most meaningful lessons, rarely offers such simplicity. Sooner or later, we walk through seasons where nothing seems to work, where plans unravel, where dreams stall, and pain finds a way into our days. And in those moments, we begin to ask, why is this happening? Or perhaps more honestly, why is God allowing this? We are taught to see hardship as a sign of failure or punishment. If life is painful, then something must have gone wrong. But what if that's not always true? What if, instead of being evidence of abandonment, hardship is often a tool in the hands of a loving God? What if the very things we try so hard to avoid, disappointment, delay, discomfort, are being used to shape us into the kind of people who can carry purpose with grace and humility? When you walk through difficulty, it is not always because you've taken a wrong turn. Sometimes it's because you are exactly where you need to be. Growth rarely happens in comfort. Muscles don't strengthen without resistance. Character is not formed in ease but in challenge. And in the hands of God, even suffering becomes sacred. Quote, this doesn't mean that pain is good or that we should welcome it blindly. It simply means that God wastes nothing. Not a tear, not a question, not even our deepest doubts. He allows us to walk through hard things not to break us, but to build us, to teach us patience, to draw us closer forever, to strip away the things we didn't even know were holding us back. Think of fire. It burns, yes, but in the right hands it refines. Gold, when placed in fire, is not destroyed. It is purified. The impurities rise to the surface. What remains is stronger, more beautiful, more valuable. So it is with us. The heat of suffering has a way of revealing what's within us. Our fears, our attachments, our pride. But it also has the power to bring forth something deeper. Trust, resilience, and a faith that is no longer based on circumstances but on who God is. We often ask God to change our situation, but more often than not, God uses the situation to change us. And when we resist that process, when we try to escape it too quickly, we may miss the very thing He is trying to give us. Not comfort, but maturity. Not escape, but endurance. This is not to say that God causes all suffering, but He does allow it. And when He does, it is never random. There is a purpose beneath the pain, even when we can't see it. Like a gardener pruning a branch, not to harm the plant, but so it can bear more fruit. God removes what will not serve us in the long run, even when we cling to it tightly. The journey of faith is not about avoiding hardship. It is about learning to walk through it with hope. It is about trusting that God is still good, even when life is not. It is about believing that something is happening in us, even when nothing seems to be happening around us. If you find yourself in a season of struggle, do not assume that God has left you. It may be that He is nearer than ever. Like a teacher during a test, silent but present, He is watching not to judge but to guide, to see what you've learned, to help you grow stronger, deeper, wiser. Some of the most compassionate, grounded, and faithful people you will ever meet are not those who have had easy lives, but those who have walked through pain and allowed it to shape them, rather than harden them. They have discovered a strength not of their own making, a grace that held them when nothing else did. And that kind of strength is not built in sunshine, it is built in storms. So take heart. Whatever you're facing, it's not the end of your story. God is still writing. And the pages written in pain may one day become the most powerful chapters of all. It is a strange thing to feel unseen, to be doing all the right things, making the hard choices, staying faithful in the quiet corners of life, and yet receive no recognition, no open door, no sign that your effort is bearing fruit. It can feel like you are invisible. Forgotten, hidden, but hidden does not mean abandoned. Hidden does not mean unimportant. In fact, in the hands of God, hiddenness is often a mark of care, a sign of preparation, a place of deep and necessary formation. Think of a sculptor standing before a great block of stone. From the outside, it looks solid, lifeless, ordinary. But the artist sees something more. He sees what no one else can. He sees what is not yet visible, but entirely possible. And so he begins to work, not with chaos or hurry, but with intention and skill. Each strike of the chisel, though it seems harsh, is chosen with care. Each piece that falls away is not a loss, but a revelation. Slowly, steadily, the shape begins to emerge, not because the sculptor rushed, but because he saw what was hidden and was willing to take his time. That is what God is like with us. He sees not just who we are now, but who we are becoming. He sees the depth, the beauty, the strength that lies beneath the surface, and so He begins to shape us. Not always in public, often in private. Not with loud announcements, but with quiet transformation. He works in the secret places of thought, of motive, of heart, carving away what no longer serves us, forming in us what we never knew we needed. We may not feel it, others may not see it, but the work is happening. And just like the sculpture cannot understand the hand of the artist, we cannot always make sense of what God is doing. There are seasons where nothing external seems to change, and we wonder if our prayers are even heard. We question whether the silence means disapproval, but silence can also be a mark of focus, a sign that the artist is paying close attention to every detail. We live in a world obsessed with being seen. Social media tells us that visibility is the same as value, that if no one knows what you're doing, it must not be worth doing. It must not be worth doing. But that is not how the kingdom of God works. In God's eyes, the private victories matter just as much, sometimes more than the public ones. The moments when you choose integrity, even though no one is watching. The times you remain kind when it would be easier to snap. The prayers you whisper in the dark with no audience but Him. These are the things He treasures. God is not just watching your performance. He is shaping your soul. And sometimes He hides you on purpose, not to punish you, but to protect you. To give you space to grow without the pressure of visibility. To form roots that go deep before the fruit ever appears. Because the deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. And God is never interested in temporary success. He wants to build something in you that lasts. When the time is right, the work He's been doing in secret will speak for itself. You won't have to strive for it or manufacture it. What has been growing in the dark will come into the light, and it will be real and strong and steady. Not because it was rushed, but because it was rooted. There is a quiet mercy in this, To be hidden is not to be passed over. It is to be held close, to be shaped in ways you cannot yet understand for purposes greater than you can yet imagine. So if you feel unseen right now, take heart. God sees you. He knows the work He is doing. Trust His hand. 2. Trust His timing. Trust that the chiseling has purpose, the quiet has meaning, and the hidden place is not a detour. It is the workshop of transformation. One day, the world may see the shape of who you've become, but God sees it already, and He calls it good. There are parts of our lives we'd rather leave behind, chapters we don't revisit, mistakes we regret, seasons we survived, losses we carry like quiet weights. We look back on certain days with a wince, wondering if anything good could ever come from them. But in the hands of God, nothing is wasted. Not the joy, not the sorrow, not even the things we thought disqualified us from purpose. Everything can be used. This is one of the most beautiful and mysterious truths about how God works. He does not simply remove the broken parts of our stories. He redeems them. He takes what we thought was ruined and reweaves it into something purposeful. Like a master weaver, He uses both the bright threads and the dark ones to create a pattern we could never imagine while staring at the back of the tapestry. We tend to measure our worth by our best moments. We present the highlight reel. We feel proud when things are going well and ashamed when they are not. But God sees the whole picture. And He doesn't flinch at the broken bits. He doesn't turn away from our mess. In fact, those are often the very places where His grace does its deepest work. There are things you've walked through that others haven't, pain you've carried quietly, lessons you've learned the hard way. And it may feel like those experiences were detours, wasted years, time lost. But God is not in a rush, and He does not discard what He can transform. That relationship that fell apart, the opportunity that slipped away, the failure that humbled you, the waiting that nearly broke you, these can all become part of the story He tells through you. Even your greatest wounds can become places of healing for others. So even your lowest valley can become the ground where someone else finds hope. Because when God restores something, He does not simply return it to what it was. He makes it into something new, something more, something more. A life touched by grace becomes a testimony. Not in spite of the pain, but often because sometimes we think God can only use the parts of us that are polished, prepared, already perfect. But He is not after perfection. He is after surrender. He wants the honest version of us, the version that says, I don't have it all figured out, but here I am. That is where transformation begins. That is where nothing is wasted, because everything is offered. We often try to hide the parts of our story that hurt. We don't want to appear weak, unsure, or scarred, but it's through those very scars that the light shines. Like stained glass, each broken, colored shard held together by the hand of the artist. It's not the perfection that makes it beautiful, but the way the pieces come together to tell a greater story. And the truth is, some of your greatest wisdom comes not from what went right, but from what went wrong. Some of your deepest compassion has been carved out of places of sorrow. Some of your most resilient strength was born in the fire of trial. None of that is wasted. It has shaped who you are and is shaping who you are becoming. Don't label seasons as useless just because they didn't end the way you hoped. God doesn't need tidy narratives to do holy work. He doesn't skip the messy middle. He walks right into it and begins to redeem it from within. You don't need to understand how it will all come together. You only need to trust that He can make something beautiful from what you offer Him. He's done it before. He's doing it now. The pain, the waiting, the failure, the breakthrough, it's all a part of it. He's weaving it together, even when you can't see the final pattern yet. In His hands, nothing is wasted. Not a single moment, not a single tear, not a single breath. There comes a moment when the waiting ends. The silence lifts and the door you've longed to walk through finally opens. The path that once seemed hidden clears just enough for your next step. It may not be the thunderous arrival you once imagined, but you'll know it when it comes. And when it does, you'll also realize something even more profound. You are not the same person who first began the journey.